Hi, I'm Dr. Bertice Berry, and I need to tell you this story. I'm in the airport, and there's a man who's assisting a woman in a wheelchair, and there's a woman who's assisting me. And she turns and she looks at him and she says, "Oh, I didn't recognize you. Where's your regular clothes?" And he had on a uniform and he's dressed very neat and very pristine. But she said, normally he dresses to the nine. He wears his uniform shirt, but he has a suit jacket over it and a suit pants, and he dresses to the nines. And he said, I've been dressing like that since I was a little boy. Since I was 5 years old, I've been dressing to the nines. My mother dressed me up. I continued to dress up from the time that I was a child. And he said, they told me I couldn't wear that. I couldn't dress up anymore. I couldn't do that. She said, but you look so amazing. And it always brought us joy. We'd be wondering what's he got on today. And it made us so happy. And she said, well, what happened? And he said, well, the supervisors all called me in and they were all saying how they had mistaken me as the boss. They thought I was their boss because of the way I dressed. And so they wanted to make sure that didn't happen. So she said, but why would they do that? And I said, because they didn't want him dressing above his so-called station. They don't want you dressing above your station. And I started thinking about when I was a girl growing up, the men in the neighborhood would dress to the nines, leaving their house to go to work. And so I thought these people had office jobs, that they were in charge of something, they were educators, and then I found out, no, that's a janitor, that's a bus driver, he's a cook. But they would dress as themselves to go to their work. And then they would put on their uniform when they got to work. There were lockers provided for these men to dress who they were. Same with women. I would see these women in church and they were dressed to the nines. And I thought, ooh, oh my goodness. And then you find out, oh no, she's a domestic, or because you're wondering what job do they have that they dress so nice. That was only that one time. But that style of being, it's called a dandy, being so dressed so dandy. And that man was hurt, he said. He pulled up his pictures. He showed me the stuff. He was like, look at this, look at this. And one day it's one color, the next day it's another color, the next day just to the nines. He said it brought so much joy. So I get home and there's the copy of Vogue, because the Met Gala this year is celebrating the dandy, celebrating those Black men who dressed no matter what was going on. They had style, impeccable style. They were above and beyond. And this man who worked in the airport was a dandy. So I looked at him and I said, you represent a lot of our history, and we got to find a way for you to continue. And so he said, yeah, I want everybody to write to the Atlanta airport and just say, the man who pushes the wheelchair, who dressed so nice, let him keep dressing. And I love that. I love that. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. And I love that he shared with me his stories, his pictures of who he is. Sometimes, rather than allowing somebody else's excellence to call us up, we think the thing to do is call them down. But I'm telling you right now, we're being called up. I love you.